Imagine a world divided. A land where the Nile winds through endless desert, carving life from the unforgiving sands. Yet kingdoms clash at every turn. Villages rise and fall like fleeting shadows, and the people live under the constant weight of fear, uncertainty, and conflict. For centuries, Upper and Lower Egypt existed as two separate realms, rivals, yet intrinsically bound by the same river, the same sun, the same soil. And then, in this age of chaos, one man emerged from the whispers of history. One man whose name would be etched into the memory of a civilization long before history even had a written record for it. Narmer, the pharaoh destined to unite two lands, to forge order from disorder, to create a legacy that would shape the destiny of Egypt for millennia. Close your eyes for a moment and picture him. A young, determined ruler, eyes sharp with strategy, mind alive with visions of a unified kingdom. Imagine the tension in the air as armies prepare, banners sway, and the Nile flows silently, witnessing the birth of a nation. Picture the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders, knowing that every decision, every step, could bring triumph or disaster. The story of Narmer is not merely about conquest. It is about courage, vision, and the audacity to dream bigger than the world around him allows. But what drove this pharaoh? Was it ambition, duty, or something deeper? A calling to weave together two fractured lands into a single, unbreakable entity. In the next hour, we will journey through deserts and rivers, battlefields and sacred halls, uncovering the man behind the legend, the strategies behind his victories, and the symbols that immortalized his reign. And as we walk through the sands of time together, we invite you not only to witness history, but to experience it, to feel the sun on your face as it rises over the Nile, to hear the distant clash of armies, to stand in the presence of a ruler whose vision changed the course of a civilization. If you love uncovering the secrets of history, exploring the lives of those who shaped our world, and seeing the past come alive in cinematic detail, then subscribe and join us. Let's step together into the ancient world of Pharaoh Narmer, a world of power, mystery, and the birth of a united Egypt. Prepare yourself. The journey begins now. In the heart of the Nile Valley, where the golden sun met the endless desert sands, a child was born who would one day unite a divided land. The twin regions of Upper and Lower Egypt had long been distinct kingdoms, each with its own customs, its own rulers, and its own gods. Yet, in a palace perched on the banks of the life-giving river, whispers of prophecy echoed through the corridors. A boy, destined to bridge the gap between these realms, had come into the world. Narmer's birth was celebrated with elaborate ceremonies, attended by priests, nobles, and servants alike. Incense smoke curled upward, mixing with the warm scent of lotus blossoms, while the high priest intoned blessings in the ancient tongue. The walls of the palace were adorned with vibrant murals, depicting gods and sacred animals, all watching over the newborn with solemn vigilance. Musicians played on reed flutes and drums, creating a rhythm that seemed to pulse in harmony with the river itself. His mother, a queen of sharp intellect and gentle demeanor, cradled him with care, murmuring prayers for strength, wisdom, and protection. She knew that the Nile, while a source of life, could also be unpredictable, bringing both floods and famine. In her eyes, Narmer was not just a child. He was a promise, a living symbol of hope for a fractured nation. Courtiers watched closely, speculating on the significance of omens observed at his birth, the pattern of the stars, the flight of birds, even the unusual calm of the river that morning. Legends quickly began to form around him. It was said that the first rays of sunlight had fallen directly upon his cradle, as though the gods themselves had chosen to illuminate his path. Some whispered that a rare desert storm had swept across the valley the night before his birth, carrying with it a hint of change, a foreshadowing that the old ways would soon be challenged. These tales spread like wildfire among the people, igniting curiosity and reverence. Life in the royal household was both lavish and instructive. Narmer's early days were filled with sensory wonder. The intricate tapestries, the aroma of freshly baked bread, the soft plash of water in the palace's reflective pools. He observed the routines of his father, the reigning king, learning the subtle cues of leadership. A nod here, a stern glance there, a measured tone that commanded obedience without fear. The young prince absorbed these lessons silently, his eyes wide with both fascination and an unspoken understanding of the responsibilities that awaited him. The palace was also a stage for tradition. Rituals marking the passage of the sun, offerings to deities, and celebrations of the fertile land were performed with meticulous care. Each rite was an opportunity for Narmer to witness the intertwining of the divine and the mortal, to see how power was both exercised and revered. Priests would chant, dancers would sway in fluid motion, and priests' sacred animals, ibises, cats, and crocodiles, would move among them, symbols of protection and prophecy. The young prince's senses were awash with color, sound, and the rhythm of ritual, shaping his understanding of Egypt as a land blessed and yet fragile. Beyond the walls, the Nile flowed like a silver thread, threading together villages, farms, and markets. Stories from these lands reached the palace, tales of rival chiefs, wandering nomads, and the enduring resilience of the Egyptian people. Though Narmer was too young to comprehend politics fully, these narratives planted the seeds of awareness, an instinctive curiosity about the wider world and the responsibilities that his future role would demand. By the time he could walk, Narmer had already begun to exhibit signs of promise. Quick to notice details others missed, calm in the face of minor mishaps, and unusually determined even in play, he carried an air of purpose uncommon for a child. Courtiers marveled, mothers whispered among themselves, and the priests nodded knowingly. The boy would not be ordinary. Thus, from his very first breaths, Narmer's life was intertwined with destiny. He was born not merely into a family, but into a story much larger than himself, a story of kingdoms divided, of gods watching, and of a land awaiting unity. And as the Nile reflected the burning reds and golds of the setting sun, it seemed to carry a silent promise. The boy who now slept in a cradle swathed in silk and incense would one day stand as a king, a unifier, and a legend whose name would echo through the ages. The sun rose pale over the delta, casting a cool light across the fragmented lands of Upper and Lower Egypt. Narmer, now a boy of 10, stood atop a balcony of the palace, eyes fixed on the horizon where the river split and rejoined like silver threads. From this height, the kingdoms seemed small, like toys awaiting a master's hand. But the boy knew better. Every village, every temple, every winding canal was alive with ambition, fear, and desire. And the boy, destined to unite them all, had begun to notice. Within the palace walls, lessons were unending. Tutors spoke of gods, rivers, and warfare. Priests whispered the weight of omens. Generals instructed him in strategy, yet even their words felt incomplete. Narmer's mind, sharp as the desert wind, sought patterns where others saw chaos. He watched the advisors squabble over borders and grain shipments, noticed the envy in the eyes of his peers, and listened to the hushed frustrations of the people outside the stone gates. Every observation, every subtle gesture became a fragment of understanding. But lessons of the heart were harder than those of war. In the market of a nearby town, he saw a mother pleading with a scribe for the life-saving grain she could not afford. In the hills, he witnessed clans clash over water rights, their screams carried on the wind. Even as a child, Narmer felt the weight of these conflicts. He began to see that the power of a king was not only in armies, but in understanding the currents of human desire and fear. There were nights when he wandered the palace gardens alone, listening to the river's steady pulse. "Observe," he reminded himself silently. "Not only the surface, but what lies beneath." He watched the soldiers train, noting their discipline and the subtle rivalries among them. He spoke with the priests, learning the influence of ritual and belief. And he spoke with servants, learning the truth of daily survival, the real heartbeat of the land. Each conversation, no matter how small, taught him that leadership was a web of countless threads, each fragile, yet indispensable. Conflict was never far away. Tribes from the southern cliffs pressed into Upper Egypt, raiding caravans and defying governors. In the north, merchants in the delta resisted taxation, threatening the fragile stability of the royal treasury. Narmer's father, though wise and commanding, could not attend to every dispute. The boy observed, calculated, and began to form strategies in his mind. He imagined alliances, marriages, and negotiations that could unite the divided lands, not through sheer force alone, but through clever diplomacy and mutual respect. Yet, for all the lessons of politics, it was the human stories that lingered most. A farmer who rebuilt his mud brick home after a flood. A young scribe risking punishment to deliver a message of peace. An orphan boy who shared his meager bread with a stranger. These moments struck Narmer with a quiet intensity. They reminded him that power without compassion was hollow. A king could command armies, but without understanding the hearts of his people, victory would be fragile, fleeting. In the quiet evenings, Narmer would sketch maps of the lands, marking rivers, deserts, and trade routes. He imagined the possibilities, how bridges could connect towns, how the flow of the Nile could be harnessed, how unity might be achieved without unnecessary bloodshed. His strategies were not yet tested, but they began to take shape, seeded in observation, nurtured by empathy, and sharpened by the realities of survival. The boy was no longer merely a child of royal blood. He was an observer, a strategist, a student of both men and gods. Every lesson, every conflict, every small act of courage or cruelty etched itself into his young mind. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Narmer began to feel the first stirrings of destiny. that he would not only inherit a kingdom, but shape the future of an entire civilization. The sun set over the delta, washing the world in molten gold. Narmer stood again atop the palace walls, gaze fixed on the horizon, absorbing every shadow, every glint of river light, every distant cry. He understood even now that greatness would not come without struggle, but he was ready. The challenges of childhood had begun to forge the mind of a king, and in the quiet of the desert night, the seeds of Egypt's unification were already germinating in the heart of a boy who would become Narmer. Narmer's ascent to the throne was neither swift nor unchallenged. The moment he became Pharaoh, the young king inherited more than a crown. He inherited centuries of division, distrust, and delicate balances of power. Upper and Lower Egypt, though historically connected by the life-giving Nile, had long existed as separate entities, each with its own traditions, loyalties, and ambitions. The path to power required not only military skill, but diplomacy, patience, and a vision that could inspire loyalty in the hearts of those who had long resisted centralized authority. His first months on the throne were a whirlwind of observation and subtle action. Envoys from the northern delta arrived with cautious greetings, each assessing the temperament of the new ruler. Some nobles doubted his youth and inexperience, whispering among themselves that a boy could not command armies or maintain alliances. Others, however, were intrigued by his intelligence and clarity of vision. Narmer listened, noting every reaction, every hesitation, every unspoken sentiment. In these moments, he understood a fundamental truth. To rule, one must first understand the ruled. Pressure mounted quickly. Small revolts flared in Upper Egypt, fueled by local lords who resented being subordinated to a central authority. In the Nile Delta, merchant families worried about taxes and trade restrictions. In the villages, common people feared conscription and the disruptions of war. Each challenge required a careful balance of firmness and tact. Narmer could not simply impose his will. He needed to unify hearts as well as lands. The first major test came with the northern lords, who resisted his attempt to establish a central administration. Rather than marching immediately into conflict, Narmer employed a blend of negotiation and strategy. He sent emissaries bearing gifts, promised protection to compliant villages, and, crucially, staged demonstrations of his army's readiness and discipline. These carefully orchestrated moves signaled strength without provoking unnecessary bloodshed. Slowly, northern leaders began to yield, impressed by both his decisiveness and his understanding of their interests. Simultaneously, Narmer faced the expectations of his own court. Advisors urged caution, fearing that bold action might provoke rebellion. Family elders reminded him of tradition and precedent, warning against upsetting the fragile balance between Upper and Lower Egypt. Yet Narmer remained focused, recognizing that leadership required more than following precedent. It demanded vision. He had to show that the benefits of unification outweighed the risks, that a single, harmonious kingdom could bring stability, prosperity, and security to all. Moments of doubt were inevitable. Late at night, Narmer would stand on the palace balcony, watching the Nile flow through the land he was sworn to protect. He understood the enormity of his task: to unite a kingdom with hundreds of years of separate identities, customs, and rivalries. One misstep could plunge the land into chaos, undoing years of careful preparation. These pressures shaped his character, teaching him the value of patience, calculation, and empathy. Leadership, he realized, was as much about listening and observing as it was about commanding. Despite the challenges, Narmer's bold decisions began to bear fruit. He strategically arranged marriages between noble families from Upper and Lower Egypt, weaving a network of alliances that reinforced his authority. He established trade routes that benefited both regions, demonstrating the tangible rewards of cooperation. Public ceremonies showcased the unity of the kingdom, with the people witnessing a pharaoh who combined strength with fairness, vision with benevolence. Gradually, loyalty replaced skepticism, and admiration grew among the populace. Yet Narmer's path was not without personal cost. The weight of responsibility pressed on him relentlessly. Sleep was often elusive as he pondered strategy, justice, and the future. Moments of solitude brought reflection, self-doubt, and the haunting awareness that history would judge every choice. Still, he persevered, drawing strength from his clarity of purpose and the fleeting glimpses of what a united Egypt could achieve. Key turning points defined this period of his reign. Strategic victories in small but pivotal conflicts bolstered his credibility. Diplomatic successes forged alliances that prevented larger wars. And above all, his ability to inspire loyalty through vision and presence rather than fear alone solidified his emerging authority. Each event, each decision served as a stepping stone, gradually transforming Narmer from a young, observant prince into a pharaoh capable of shaping the destiny of an entire civilization. By the end of this critical stage, Narmer had achieved a balance few leaders manage in a lifetime. He had asserted his authority while earning genuine respect. He had enforced order while nurturing loyalty. He had begun to weave the disparate threads of Upper and Lower Egypt into a single, resilient tapestry. The path to power had been arduous, fraught with political intrigue, public expectation, and personal sacrifice. But it had forged a ruler of unparalleled foresight, ready to embark on the ultimate mission, the unification of Egypt. Narmer's vision of a unified Egypt could no longer remain on paper. It demanded action. The Nile, lifeline of the land, now became the stage on which destiny would be forged. From the deserts to the fertile riverbanks, every city, every village, every stronghold mattered. The campaign to unite Upper and Lower Egypt was not merely a march of armies. It was a collision of history, culture, and ambition. The young pharaoh began with meticulous preparation. His generals, trusted advisors, and loyal nobles gathered in the palaces of Upper Egypt. Here, Narmer examined maps drawn on papyrus, marked routes along the Nile, and discussed supply lines and troop movements. Every decision mattered. A miscalculation could lead to disaster. A river crossing gone wrong, a desert ambush, a rebellion flaring at the rear. Narmer's army, though disciplined, was not invincible. Soldiers were drawn from local regions, each with their own loyalties and expectations. Some were hesitant, unsure of following a boy king into uncertain battles. Others were fiercely loyal, inspired by Narmer's vision and presence. To maintain unity within the ranks, he led by example, training alongside them, sharing their hardships, and earning their respect. His generals, experienced men with hardened eyes, advised caution, but Narmer's resolve was unwavering. He knew that hesitation could cost more than courage. The campaign began with a series of small, decisive strikes, strategic raids to test the Northern Lords' defenses and gauge their response. Ambushes in narrow desert passes, sudden crossings of Nile tributaries, and feigned retreats became part of a careful choreography. Soldiers learned to move silently, strike quickly, and regroup efficiently. Villagers watched in awe as columns of disciplined troops advanced under banners adorned with Narmer's symbols. The Pharaoh himself often rode at the forefront, his presence a beacon of courage and certainty. Conflict escalated as Narmer approached key delta cities. Here, the resistance hardened, and the battles became more complex. The Northern Lords deployed their own forces, chariots, archers, and fortified positions along the riverbanks. Skirmishes were brutal and chaotic, with the clashing of bronze weapons, the roar of soldiers, and the cries of the wounded piercing the air. Yet amid the chaos, Narmer's strategy revealed its brilliance. By splitting his forces into multiple fronts, employing decoys, and exploiting knowledge of the terrain, he turned potential disasters into calculated victories. Not every engagement ended in triumph. In one battle along the marshy Nile Delta, the Pharaoh's troops were nearly ensnared by a sudden flood. Waterlogged ground slowed their advance, and the northern defenders pressed the attack. Panic threatened to break the ranks. Narmer, seeing the peril, rode forward into the fray, signaling reinforcements and reorganizing his lines. His courage steadied the men, and they pushed through, turning near defeat into a hard-won victory. Moments like these tested not only his leadership, but his ability to inspire confidence under pressure. Narmer also relied on diplomacy alongside the sword. Some northern rulers, impressed by his decisiveness and wisdom, chose negotiation over confrontation. Alliances were formed, marriages arranged, and gifts exchanged, consolidating loyalty without bloodshed. These victories of persuasion were as critical as those on the battlefield, proving that unification required more than brute force. It demanded intelligence, tact, and vision. Amid the tension, Narmer's character shone through in small but telling ways. Soldiers whispered tales of his quiet moments of reflection before dawn, of how he attended to the wounded or consulted with local elders to understand their concerns. He understood that uniting Egypt was not solely about defeating armies. It was about winning hearts. Each village he passed, each citizen he encountered, became a thread in the tapestry of his vision. Loyalty earned through respect was far more enduring than fear imposed by might. As the campaign progressed, the climactic battle approached, the confrontation that would decide the fate of Lower Egypt. The two armies faced each other across a narrow plain near the delta, a mix of anticipation, tension, and raw energy vibrating through the air. Narmer's generals whispered strategies, soldiers adjusted their shields, and the northern lords tightened their formations. Dust rose from the trampled earth, the sun blazed above, and the hum of readiness filled the silence before the storm of combat. The clash was monumental. Spears met shields, arrows rained, and the roar of men and animals blended into a symphony of chaos. Narmer rode at the center, rallying troops, inspiring them with both courage and presence. He read the battlefield with clarity, deploying reinforcements, exploiting weaknesses, and seizing opportunities that others might have missed. Victory emerged not from sheer strength, but from strategy, patience, and decisiveness. When the dust settled, Narmer stood triumphant. Lower Egypt had fallen into his hands, not through tyranny alone, but through a combination of intellect, leadership, and vision. The victory was more than military. It was symbolic, a demonstration that Upper and Lower Egypt could indeed be united under a single ruler. The Nile, once a boundary, now flowed through a single, connected kingdom. Celebrations followed. Cities rejoiced, festivals honored the pharaoh, and Narmer's vision of a unified Egypt began to take shape in everyday life. Yet, even in triumph, he remained vigilant, aware that unification was an ongoing process, requiring governance, justice, and continual attention. His army rested, rebuilt, and integrated into the new administrative structure, becoming not just conquerors, but guardians of a nascent nation. Through battles, setbacks, negotiations, and celebrations, Narmer's campaign forged the foundation of a unified Egypt. It revealed a ruler capable of marrying strategy with empathy, courage with vision, and strength with wisdom. By the end, Narmer was no longer merely a young pharaoh testing his abilities. He was the architect of history, a leader whose decisions would echo through millennia. With Upper and Lower Egypt united under his rule, Narmer's focus shifted from conquest to consolidation. Power was not merely a matter of swords and armies. It was woven into the symbols, rituals, and traditions that legitimized a pharaoh's reign. In ancient Egypt, the visible signs of authority were as crucial as the decisions made in the halls of governance. For Narmer, these symbols became tools to unite a divided people and to inspire awe, loyalty, and reverence. At the center of this symbolism stood the double crown, the Shent, representing the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. Worn upon his brow, it was more than ornamentation. It was a proclamation of sovereignty over the two lands. The red deshret of Lower Egypt and the white hedjet of Upper Egypt merged into a single emblem, a visual testament to Narmer's achievement. Each time he appeared before the people, this crown reminded them not only of his triumph, but of the harmony he sought to maintain. The crown itself became a narrative, the red of the Delta and the white of the Nile Valley flowing together under a single ruler, promising stability after generations of conflict. Beyond the crown, other regalia reinforced the pharaoh's authority. The crook and flail, symbols of leadership and the responsibility to provide and protect, were central to ceremonial depictions. The crook, curved like a shepherd's tool, signified guidance and care for the people, while the flail, a tool once used to thresh grain, represented both discipline and the pharaoh's duty to ensure prosperity. In Narmer's hands, these instruments were not merely ceremonial. They communicated a philosophy of rulership, one that combined benevolence with strength, guidance with vigilance. The throne itself was an equally potent symbol. Carved from rich woods, adorned with gold leaf, and inset with precious stones, it embodied both permanence and divine sanction. Sitting upon it, Narmer was more than a man. He became the earthly representative of gods, the intermediary between heaven and the fertile land. Every gesture from the throne, raising a hand, bestowing an audience, or presiding over a council, resonated with authority, reminding subjects and officials alike of the pharaoh's unique position. Rituals and ceremonies amplified the impact of these symbols. Daily acts, such as the morning offerings to deities and the inspection of sacred temples, reinforced Narmer's divine role. Festivals, too, played a key part. Elaborate processions along the Nile, vibrant with music, incense, and dancers, celebrated seasonal cycles, victories, and divine favor. During these events, Narmer would be adorned in full regalia, paraded through the streets, and presented as both a ruler and a living deity. The interplay of music, movement, and symbolism created an immersive experience that both awed and unified the populace. Religious iconography intertwined deeply with Narmer's authority. Gods like Horus and Ra were ever present in ceremonial and artistic depictions. Narmer was often portrayed with the falcon of Horus perched beside him, signaling divine protection and legitimizing his rule. Temples, statues, and reliefs depicted him in close communion with deities, suggesting that his earthly actions mirrored the divine order. In this way, myth and leadership were inseparable. The pharaoh was both the executor of God's will and the guarantor of cosmic balance. The cultural resonance of these symbols was profound. Subjects, familiar with centuries of oral tradition and evolving mythology, recognized the layered meanings. A crown was not merely a crown. It was history, destiny, and divine sanction in one. A staff was not just a stick. It was a covenant between ruler and ruled. Through this symbolic language, Narmer created a framework that transcended literacy, geography, and local politics. Even those who could not read papyrus could understand the stories told by crowns, scepters, and ceremonial gestures. Narmer's careful orchestration of authority extended to his advisors and subordinates. Officials were trained to recognize and propagate these symbols, ensuring that every interaction reflected the pharaoh's overarching power and wisdom. From tax collection to temple administration, the visual and ritual framework reinforced obedience and respect. Through the marriage of visual spectacle, mythology, and ritual practice, Narmer transformed authority into a living, breathing institution, a structure that bound Egypt together as much as any army or treaty could. In this period, Narmer was not only a conqueror, but a master of perception. His reign demonstrated that the consolidation of a kingdom relied as much on hearts and minds as on armies. The symbols of his authority, the crowns, scepters, throne, rituals, and myths, created a shared cultural consciousness, a cohesive identity for Upper and Lower Egypt. It was through these carefully crafted images and performances that Narmer ensured his legacy, that the pharaoh was both a temporal ruler and a spiritual anchor, a human leader sanctioned by the gods and revered by his people. Through crowns and scepters, rituals and myth, Narmer's authority became tangible, visible, and eternal. These symbols were not merely decorative. They were the foundation of governance, diplomacy, and identity. They communicated power without violence, command without coercion, and inspired loyalty without fear. In the world of Narmer, authority was as much an art as a strategy, and it was through this art that he solidified the first unified kingdom of Egypt. Among the most iconic artifacts from ancient Egypt, the Narmer Palette stands not merely as a ceremonial object, but as a visual manifesto of power, vision, and political unity. Carved from a single piece of siltstone, it is at once intricate and monumental. A narrative frozen in stone that communicates Narmer's triumphs and authority to both his contemporaries and generations far beyond. Examining this palette provides not just historical insight, but a cinematic window into the early days of Egyptian civilization. The palette is divided into two main sides, each meticulously composed, like frames from an epic tableau. On one side, Narmer is depicted larger than life, a colossal figure dominating the scene. He wears the white crown of Upper Egypt, signaling his sovereignty over the southern lands, and wields a mace in one hand, poised to strike a fallen enemy. His other hand grips a kneeling captive, emphasizing the pharaoh's control and the inevitability of his justice. Here, the image is not mere violence, it is symbolic. The smiting pose represents the cosmic order restored by a single decisive act, a visual language that merges politics and spirituality. By crushing chaos, Narmer restores Ma'at, the principle of balance, truth, and cosmic harmony, a motif that would echo through the reigns of countless pharaohs to come. Above Narmer, a falcon, representing Horus, hovers with wings outstretched, grasping a rope tied to a human figure, suggesting divine approval of Narmer's actions. This is more than decorative symbolism. It is a declaration that the pharaoh's authority is sanctioned by the gods, a sacred endorsement that intertwines mortal leadership with divine will. Every subsequent pharaoh would inherit this visual vocabulary, using falcons, sun discs, and hieroglyphic motifs to project a continuity of divine favor and legitimate power. The other side of the palette presents Narmer wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt, symbolizing his dominion over the northern delta. Here, the composition shifts from individual dominance to organized power. Rows of soldiers march, orderly and precise, demonstrating the pharaoh's ability to command and unify armies. Bound captives, standards, and ceremonial boats all converge into a narrative of conquest and administration. It is an early example of statecraft depicted visually. The ruler as a unifier, strategist, and overseer of a coherent, functioning kingdom. Through these carvings, Narmer communicates a lesson that would resonate throughout Egyptian history. True power blends martial prowess, diplomacy, and divine sanction. The central section of the palette, often interpreted as a ceremonial register, shows intertwined animals, geometric motifs, and mythological symbols. These elements are more than ornamentation. They represent the eternal struggle between order and chaos, a narrative deeply embedded in Egyptian cosmology. By incorporating these motifs, the Narmer Palette establishes a visual theology. The pharaoh's actions on earth mirror the cosmic battle between Ma'at and Isfet, chaos. Future rulers would adopt similar allegorical storytelling, embedding ideology into monumental art to assert legitimacy and moral authority. One of the most fascinating aspects of the palette is how it foreshadows the legacies of future pharaohs. Figures like Djoser with his step pyramid and Ramses II, famed for colossal statues, follow the template set by Narmer. Rulers who understood that symbolic imagery communicates power as effectively as military might. The Narmer Palette is both precedent and inspiration, a blueprint for how rulers project authority, sanctify their reign, and weave mythology into governance. The interplay of imagery, scale, and ritualized gestures became a cornerstone of Egyptian statecraft for millennia. Beyond the political and religious symbolism, the Narmer Palette also embodies a cultural legacy. Its artistry reflects the early sophistication of Egyptian craftsmanship, the capacity to transform stone into storytelling, and the instinct to record history not just as events, but as enduring visual narratives. Every line, Every relief is deliberate. The contours of the figures, the rhythm of marching soldiers, and the exaggerated size of the pharaoh communicate emphasis, hierarchy, and significance. It is an artifact that does not merely depict reality, it curates perception, shaping how viewers, both ancient and modern, understand leadership and divine sanction. The palette also functions as a bridge between myth and memory. By presenting Narmer's victories and rituals in stylized, almost theatrical form, it elevates him beyond mortality. He is simultaneously human and divine, a conqueror, a unifier, and a figure whose influence extends into eternity. In the hands of later pharaohs, this model is replicated endlessly. From ceremonial stelae to tomb reliefs, the language of power crafted by Narmer becomes canonical, a visual grammar understood by artisans, priests, and citizens alike. Finally, the Narmer Palette's significance extends into modern scholarship and imagination. It is not just a relic, it is a lens through which historians reconstruct the birth of a civilization. It allows us to glimpse the strategies, ambitions, and symbolic sophistication of a ruler who, without written narratives, communicated his vision through form, scale, and allegory. Every pharaoh who came after, whether celebrated or obscure, walked in the shadow of Narmer's precedent. The palette is a testament to his vision, that leadership is as much about shaping perception and culture as it is about wielding armies or enacting laws. In sum, the Narmer Palette is a cornerstone of Egyptian history. It encapsulates the unity of Upper and Lower Egypt, the intertwining of divine and human authority, and the foundations of statecraft, ritual, and artistic expression. Through its intricate reliefs, Narmer communicates not only his victories, but a vision of governance, culture, and legacy that resonates through time. By analyzing its symbolism, we gain insight into the mind of Egypt's first pharaoh, and into the enduring methods by which rulers inspire, unify, and transcend mortality. With the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt complete, Narmer faced a new challenge, transforming conquest into sustainable governance. Victory on the battlefield was only the first step. The real test lay in organizing a kingdom that could endure for centuries. His vision extended beyond immediate power. It encompassed political stability, economic prosperity, religious cohesion, and cultural identity. At the heart of this vision was Memphis, strategically located at the junction of Upper and Lower Egypt. Narmer chose it as the capital for its symbolic and practical significance. It represented the unity of the two lands and commanded control over trade routes, fertile floodplains, and key military positions. The city itself became a living monument to the pharaoh's foresight. Roads were laid out with care, royal palaces and administrative buildings were constructed, and central granaries ensured that the Nile's abundance was distributed efficiently. Memphis was not only a political hub, but also a statement of Narmer's ability to organize, govern, and inspire. Life in the city reflected the pharaoh's careful orchestration of society. Priests, scribes, artisans, and soldiers worked within a system that balanced duty with devotion. Religious rituals, already a central pillar of Egyptian life, were meticulously codified. Temples rose along the riverbanks, adorned with murals and reliefs that depicted the gods and their connection to the pharaoh. Narmer himself participated in these ceremonies, reinforcing the divine legitimacy of his reign. Each festival and offering was both spiritual and political, strengthening loyalty among citizens while affirming the pharaoh's role as the bridge between heaven and earth. Art and culture flourished under Narmer's guidance. Craftsmen carved intricate statuettes, painted vivid murals, and designed ceremonial objects that conveyed the cosmic order he sought to maintain. Artistic expression was not mere decoration, it was a visual language that communicated ideology, hierarchy, and devotion. Even the simplest piece, a decorated bowl or ceremonial palette, served as a reflection of the pharaoh's vision for a society grounded in harmony, beauty, and order. Narmer's patronage of the arts laid the foundation for the iconic aesthetic of ancient Egypt, influencing architecture, sculpture, and iconography for centuries. Economically, Narmer implemented policies that strengthened central authority while maintaining local autonomy. Agricultural production was organized to ensure stable food supplies. Trade with neighboring regions was encouraged, and craftsmen were supported in specialized industries like pottery, weaving, and metallurgy. This combination of centralized oversight and local initiative allowed Memphis, and Egypt as a whole, to thrive, transforming a newly unified kingdom into a cohesive and prosperous civilization. Education and record-keeping were also central to his vision. Scribes trained in the art of hieroglyphics documented taxes, land ownership, religious offerings, and legal decrees. These records were more than administrative tools. They were instruments of continuity, preserving Narmer's reforms and ensuring that his governance could be sustained beyond his reign. The ability to communicate laws, decrees, and religious doctrines across a vast and diverse population became one of Narmer's most enduring legacies. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Narmer's vision was his long-term perspective. He understood that power without cultural and religious cohesion was fragile. By intertwining governance, religion, and art, he created a system where loyalty was cultivated not only through fear or reward, but through shared identity, ritual, and belief. The citizens of Memphis, from laborers to priests, were participants in a larger narrative, one in which the pharaoh embodied order, divine favor, and the enduring promise of stability. Narmer also looked to the future through the eyes of posterity. He commissioned monumental architecture and ceremonial artifacts, not merely for immediate display, but as enduring symbols of unity and authority. The planning of Memphis, the codification of rituals, and the embellishment of temples were all acts of foresight. His attempt to shape Egypt's cultural memory, ensuring that generations to come would understand and revere the pharaoh who first brought the two lands together. In essence, Narmer's vision extended far beyond his own lifetime. He did not see himself merely as a conqueror. He saw himself as a founder, a strategist, and a custodian of civilization. Through careful planning, centralized governance, and cultural patronage, he transformed Egypt from a collection of warring regions into a unified, prosperous, and spiritually coherent kingdom. Every stone laid, every ritual observed, every artwork commissioned, reflected a mind attuned not only to immediate challenges, but to the enduring legacy of a civilization he had begun to shape. By the time Narmer looked upon Memphis in its early glory, he could see the tangible results of his vision. A city that was administrative, spiritual, and cultural heart of Egypt. A people whose identity was intertwined with the pharaoh's ideals, and a kingdom poised to endure for millennia. His strategic foresight, blending politics, religion, and art, became the blueprint for all subsequent pharaohs, a testament to the power of vision when wielded with wisdom, patience, and a deep understanding of human and cosmic order. As the sun sets over the fertile banks of the Nile, Narmer's legacy stretches across the land he united. From the deserts of Upper Egypt to the marshes of the Delta, his vision echoes in every stone laid, every temple raised, every festival celebrated. The boy who once observed, learned, and strategized in the shadow of his father's court had grown into a pharaoh whose ambition was matched only by his foresight. He had not merely conquered territories, he had woven a civilization, crafting a structure that would endure long after his reign, a testament to the power of decisive leadership guided by purpose. Narmer's story teaches us that true authority is not born from force alone. It is the combination of courage, wisdom, and vision, a delicate balance between strength and foresight. He demonstrated that uniting a divided land requires not just the courage to fight, but the wisdom to organize, the patience to build, and the imagination to foresee what the world could become. Each canal dug, each temple raised, each law established, reflected a mind attuned to both the immediate and the eternal. Leadership, he showed, is as much about building futures as it is about winning battles. Looking back on his reign, it is clear that Narmer's greatest triumph was the order he brought to chaos. He created a framework that allowed people to flourish, a civilization that balanced the demands of governance with the rhythms of daily life, faith, and culture. From the grand streets of Memphis to the quiet whispers of the Nile, the pharaoh's influence permeated every corner of his kingdom. And while he is long gone, the principles he embodied, unity, vision, and decisive action, remain timeless, offering lessons for all who seek to understand the art of leadership. Yet history is not just about kings and battles. It is a mirror, reflecting possibilities for all of us. As we walk alongside Narmer through the sands of Egypt, we are reminded that vision requires courage, that progress demands foresight, and that our actions leave ripples far beyond our immediate reach. Leadership, in its truest form, is about creating something enduring, something that inspires those who come after us. The story of Narmer invites us to ask ourselves, in the lives we touch, in the choices we make, how do we leave a legacy that matters?